Kat went from living the absolute high social status to hitting rock bottom and being homeless. She has recently started a nonprofit, A New Dawn, and I'm excited to be here with Kat to hear her story. Hi there, Kat.
Hi.
How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm excited. I'm nervous. This is a little bit out of my comfort zone, but I'm very grateful to be here.
Yeah, and your story is incredible, and I think that by sharing it, you're going to help thousands and thousands of people out there. So let's start with you just giving us a background of why you started this nonprofit.
Okay, I started the nonprofit, and I feel really passionate about it because the things that we're helping with, I've personally been through. My nonprofit specializes in serving women and children that are in recovery from substance abuse and domestic violence. I am passionate about it because I've rebuilt my own life from making those kinds of choices. Some of them, you hear those things and you think a lot of it as a victim status. A lot of those choices that I made were upon myself. I had made some really poor choices.
So Kat was featured in this month's edition of the Besst Yet magazine where she tells her story. So if you didn't see it, you're going to hear it here. So let's start from the beginning. You got married when you were younger. Sometimes it just doesn't go as planned, is that right?
Right.
Tell us about your experience.
In my early 20s, I found myself experiencing some depression and anxiety. And after I had my oldest son, I experienced depression, postpartum depression. And I think it's getting a lot more awareness these days. Which is awesome. I'm very excited about. But when I experienced that, in combination with the birth that I'd had with my son, they gave me opiates after I had given birth. And there was nothing special about my birth that was traumatic or anything. There was no reason for them to give me opiates, but that is what I had been given. And I had some of my own mental health things going on at the time and with my own depression, and my depression just latched on to the opiates. And from there it just kind of snowballed, and I went from pill to pill, and my first addiction began with pharmaceutical drugs that were prescribed to me. But it was okay because they were prescribed. And meanwhile, I was just really in a huge cycle of addiction that I didn't realize was out of control.
I was going to say, you probably didn't realize it because
I had no idea. I mean, I was
the doctor prescribed it, and it just felt normal, like your normal recovery.
Right, and I had, you know, different medications for sleep and different medications for pain, and which I really wasn't even experiencing pain. But
Did
also
you just become reliant on those?
Extremely reliant, and it didn't help my first marriage at all, and it was just spinning out of control, and I was being very destructive. And then
at this point, you had just the one child?
One, and I was about to have my second, and my first marriage was coming to an end.
Okay, so you had been prescribed these prescription drugs that you were just taking on a regular basis and eventually became hooked on them.
Yes, and once I'd become hooked on them, and your tolerance builds up to these, and then I had maxed out with one doctor what he would prescribe me, which was very large. And then I started doing something that's called doctor shopping. So you go from doctor to doctor, and I was seeing multiple doctors and getting multiple prescriptions of the same ones, but so that I could maximize what I was getting.
Did anyone in your family notice a problem, or was it kind of secret?
Some people knew, but it was, I mean, that was one of the big reasons that it was such a, because I was kind of like this little suburbia mom, you know, that I just...
People wouldn't expect.
I remember a couple of times running out of pills. And I remember thinking, okay, well, I'm fine. I don't need it today. And that's when I first started to realize the power that these pills had over me, and I would start to experience withdrawals. And they were so severe that a couple of times I had to be hospitalized. I don't know if you're familiar with how your body can be so dependent on these things. But I was extremely dependent on them, to the point that when I did finally get clean, I did in fact have to go to the hospital, and they had to wean me down.
Okay, so you eventually got clean, but what happened? I mean, it was kind of rock bottom.
It was so bad. Right? So I went from the prescription pills was just actually the good part. I ended up reaching, I reached a point where I couldn't find the pills. And then I started looking for the pills on the street. And I started buying those, but those were too expensive and I couldn't afford those. So I went to heroin, and I found that they curbed I found that heroin curbed my withdrawals and everything, and I could afford heroin a lot better. However, the lifestyle that using heroin exposed me to, along with using drugs in the first place, is I mean, I feel like everybody can kind of do the math there. And the way that things just started spiraling down, I started being in just multiple different relationships, and I was bouncing from place to place, and I had lost contact with my boys too. I was in no place to be a mother at that time period in my life.
And you had 2 at the time? Okay.
Yes. And I started getting in trouble with the law. I was stealing to get my drug. I was writing prescriptions that were forged. And I also, the first time I got caught, I was caught with drugs on me. So I started getting possessions.
And let's stop for a minute and talk about, you know, at the time when you were going through this, like what were you feeling? Like, do you remember what was going on?
It wasn't feeling, really.
Okay.
It was really a fog. Everything was a fog. It was, if I had one word to describe it, it would be destruction. Just absolute manipulation and destruction. Like, it was absolute chaos. There was, I think that people make the mistake a lot of, I get a lot of family members and stuff that'll come to me when their family members using and stuff, and their feelings they're just distraught, you know, and they're just so hurt, and they just are like, why are they doing this? Why are they manipulating me? Why are they? And I always tell them, like, are they clean? They're not clean. They're not even a sane human being to even be talking with, or try to make a deal with, or, I mean, you can't go anywhere with somebody if they're not clean. That's how I feel personally. There's just really no going through, because if they're using, it is, unfortunately, I really believe that addicts kind of have like split personalities. And when they are using, their addict will do absolutely whatever it is in order to.
And that's all they're thinking.
That's all they're thinking. That's all they're thinking about. And you can't even get mad at them. Because they are like, you have to get mad at, you just have to have the right kinds of boundaries with addicts, because you can't even go anywhere with them if they're not clean. I mean, even a day clean is something, because then they start feeling again. But yeah, I wouldn't even say I was really feeling, because I was very destructive in that time period.
Like out-of-body experience.
Totally out-of-body experience. Some of the things that I did, I really genuinely feel were like reading a story. Or I see pictures of myself during that time period, and I have more memory of the picture than I do of the actual thing taking place.
So probably when you were going through this, people probably questioned, like, how can you leave your kids and not be with your kids? But it was really out of your control. Like, mentally, you weren't capable. Is that?
That, and the people that were in my life and the boys' life thankfully stood up and wouldn't let me be in their life. I was just feeling, in hindsight now, back then, I was very angry about it, and I was not kind, but.
So you ended up homeless?
So here in Utah, I was bouncing from place to place. I was burning all of my bridges, to the point that absolutely nobody wanted me anywhere close to them, because I was stealing and taking whatever I could find in their home to sell for drugs or the drugs that they had. And I had started to get in trouble with the law. I started to have warrants out for my arrest, and I decided to run. And I used the last of what I had, and I gathered everything that I had, and I flew out to California. And I ditched my phone, because I was like paranoid that they could track me. I ditched my phone and everything in the airport, and I flew out to Los Angeles airport.
With nothing?
With nothing, just a backpack. That was it, and just the shoes on my feet, and that was it. And at that point I was already living out of a backpack though. So I got off the plane at LAX, I had no idea where I was going. And I was starting to experience withdrawals as well, because I didn't have anything on me while I flew out there. So my first goal when I got off the plane out there was to find my drug. I lived homeless in all over between LA and San Francisco for several months. And I had little bits of pieces here and there where I was clean, but for the most part I was homeless. And
what was that like though? What was it like being homeless?
It was
like,
scary.
Were you just in a different
it was
mindset
really scary. It was, I got really scared. It was really scary. The people, when you live homeless though, I mean, it's like its own micro community where you kind of have to, you'd find the polar opposite of everybody that was out for themselves when you're homeless, and then also the ones that would help you take care of one another.
Right.
It was heartbreaking. It was scary. I missed my children. I overdosed multiple times. I went to the hospital multiple times. I was raped on the streets, and it was scary, but it was just, I didn't see a way out of it. I didn't see a way out of it.
Did you think of your past life at all, of how things were?
I did, but it felt impossible to come back to. It felt way too much. I knew that the minute I came back, I thought I was going to prison. And I thought for sure I'd never see my children ever again.
Okay. What was the turning point? Like, was it all those years of being homeless, and then like, how did you get to where you are now today? So
in California, I met someone that we ended up back in Utah.
Okay.
And while I was here in Utah, I ended up getting caught by the law. I had zero intention of changing. I had zero intention of turning myself in. And I went to jail, and that was my first longest stint I've ever done in county jail. How long were you there for? That time was 13 months.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So when I went to jail, they also sentenced me to inpatient rehab. And during that time period was the first time I started to think about getting clean. Even when I went to county jail, I didn't stay clean. It's actually one of the worst places to put addicts in jail.
Wow.
Because there's drugs in jail. It's another reason why I'm doing what I'm doing. But it was the first time, once I started having some of that rehab that went along with it, it started to plant a seed inside of my head that maybe, just maybe, I didn't want to use anymore. So I went to a program in Davis County called the WRC. Okay. It's called the Women's Recovery Center. And during that time period, that's when I found my niche. And already when I was in jail, I had experienced a community of women, and more than just women, I experienced alpha females all in one place. And a lot of times when you think, okay, jail, criminal, women especially, you think, oh, I mean, it's quite scary to some people. But when you take away their connections, and you take away their drugs, and you take away all of these things, you're left with just these like raw, broken down, and most of them are alpha females. And I would not have identified myself as an alpha female during that time period, but I was surrounded by a lot of alpha females, and it changed me. And it made me really tough. And then I went to the WRC, and I found a community of women and a true feeling of sisterhood, because I had been, up until that point in life, it was almost like women were considered a competition. And it changed my whole mindset.
Found friends,
yeah, I found women willing to hug me and love me. And these were like women that were covered in tattoos, or losing their teeth, or women that didn't have families coming to see them, or who had lost their children for good. And they really took care of me. I didn't have family that was coming to see me either, because I had burnt all my bridges as well. I didn't have shampoo and conditioner, and these women, they just kind of took me under their wing. I weighed 96 pounds when I went into jail. They really did just kind of extend open arms, and it was just, it's not like that always, and I don't want to paint this picture it's like it's girls camp, because it's not, but they did teach me how to be tough and to start like standing up and owning my choices. And
how long ago was that?
That was 2012.
Okay.
That's where I found my niche though, and I started to realize that I really had some really cool connections and women in my counselors too at the WRC. They didn't let me stay a victim. They really pushed me to
own your choices.
Yeah, to own my choices and to work forward and to use them as a strength. And I mean, I had one counselor, they have all these different courses, and I had this one counselor that really called me out and was like, everything that's happened to you has been because of your lack of boundaries. And I didn't like that. It really made me angry, because I was like, no, but look at everything that has happened.
Right.
And she really called me out, and they had this boundaries class, and she made me take it 3 times.
Oh my gosh.
This whole course, she made me take it 3 times. Like it took me longer to graduate the program because she made me take it 3 times. But now she's one of my really good friends.
Oh, good.
And really and truly, I think that her doing that really saved my life.
And that was the turning point.
It was. So the WRC was my turning point.
And so you got out of there, and you were back to trying to get back into the community.
I got there, and I went into it's called safe and sober housing.
Okay.
And I say that, and so people are going to think that women have a safe and sober housing to go to in our county, but there were 4 beds available.
Oh wow.
Total, right? And there was more women who needed it, but I was truly, genuinely homeless. But there's also others who are truly, I got lucky. That's really what it was. I got lucky. I got in there, and it was $250 a month for rent, shared the apartment. And then I started to, rebuild my life. Started taking I got a job as a waitress at IHOP.
Okay.
And I had a blast. It was a good time. Sometimes I miss it. I had that boss who took a leap of faith in me because I was a felon, and she, all these people who were just kind of taking chances on me per se. At this point, I had not rebuilt bridges with any of my family, any of my friends, even my sons.
But you're seeing this whole community's out there that's seeing something in you.
Right. And it was just like, it was just strangers. It wasn't programs. It wasn't anything. It was just somebody who just kind of stepped up and was like, all right, you're trying. Okay, I'll help, Because I mean, like when my boss at IHOP gave me a job, I still had an ankle monitor on.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So then I started getting back into contact with my boys, and I started to see them again.
And how long had it been since you had seen them?
It had been 18 months.
Okay.
Yeah, it had been 18 months. So my youngest son didn't recognize me.
Oh, he didn't?
No, that was heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And that was one of the time periods where I just wanted to give up.
Yeah.
There was a lot of those time periods. I think that's another thing that I don't want to falsely represent, is that it was just like a turning point, and then just everything got better.
Right.
Because it wasn't that way. Like it was really hard.
What was it like getting back into society?
It was awful. It was so awful. It was rejection. It was judgment. It was not awesome. It really, I really did not feel like, I mean, now that I'm getting attention and stuff, that's what everybody thinks that recovery is like, and it is not. You have to be willing to push through that judgment, and you got to prove others wrong.
Yeah.
You got to prove yourself wrong, because it is not awesome. It does not feel like arms wide open. The arms wide open happen later on, but first in recovery, it feels scary.
Yeah.
And you can't find a place to live because nobody will take a felon, and a lot of places won't hire you because of your felon, or you're on probation or whatever, and you just have to be willing to hear no 99 times to the one,
and keep going,
and just keep going, and just not pick up. So it does not feel awesome. A lot of people will be like, oh, recovery, and I'm like, yeah, just get tough.
Yeah.
But it does, the blessings do come in tenfold. But
earning back trust with family members.
Yes,
and
you just have to be patient. You have to be patient with others. And sometimes the trust will never come. And you have to accept that. And you start to learn who your tribe is. And I mean, now because of what I've been through, my 12-step community that I ended up finding as well. Do you know what that is?
No, my
12-step program, they really treated me like I was family, and I had never really been in a place like that, but now I realize this was another community of people who, they were like me. They were like the same kind of messed up and like gone through it and stuff, and they were my kind of people that were like, you know, push through it, it'll get better, and share their stories with me about when they got rejection. And I thought to myself, I can do that, I can do this, I can do this. Or their rejection was worse than mine, and I thought mine was so bad. My 12-step community really was a life changer for me.
And what, 5 years later, has been 5 years, would you say?
Yes.
What's life like now?
I've got my children, I've got my family, and so the last 4 years I've been doing things by myself, where I saw gaps and where women were struggling. And I've just been, you know, going to places and volunteering or dropping off donations or gathering things. And whenever I keep going to these places, I'd get, oh, Kat, you're doing so great. You need to start a nonprofit. You need to start a nonprofit. And I'd always think to myself, no, that's not why I'm doing this. I don't. But I started back at Weaver State a year and a half ago, and I'm in the Women's Studies program there. And that gave me an opportunity to start leading groups and being involved with some sexual trauma people and also substance abuse. And it made me realize that by starting a nonprofit, it would enable me to do more good. And so we've actually only been a 501c since October.
Oh wow, so just a few months. New Dawn. Tell us exactly what A New Dawn is doing. What is your mission?
Our mission is to instill hope and to be flexible in filling the gaps on where a personal woman is struggling. How we vary is a lot of nonprofits, they will only take like check donations, cash. And now that I have a nonprofit, I realize why they do that. And that it's because it's easier. It's infinitely easier to just only take a cash donation. I love cash donations because I can do wherever it needs to be done. However, we have to allow people to give their love language. So if that's with items, or if that's me saying, hey, I need this person's child needs clothes, and I can put that out there and I can tell them the size. A lot of people feel more comfortable in going and getting those exact same things, or they might already have those things existing in their own home and they can bring them to me, and I just get to be the middleman to protect privacy and stuff. Our mission is to bridge the gap between society and those who are in recovery from substance abuse or domestic violence, and kind of just bring us together as one, because we really, it benefits all of us to have the gift of being able to give. I know for a fact makes people feel amazing. We just finished our Secret Santa project, and the amount of love that I felt from everybody that was able to give was just incredible. And also getting that as a mom in recovery, and that enormous Christmas that they were given made them feel like they were believed in, and it instilled some hope. It's my 4th year. And
that's awesome.
And 2 of my moms from prior years are now still involved with helping me pay it forward. I believe hugely because of what I experienced with my recovery and bringing women together. I believe a lot of power in healing and service for everyone, not just addictions and recovery, but those who have siblings or parents or neighbors or somebody who's been affected by addiction, being able to kind of provide them a safe place to where they can serve together. And I feel like a lot of addiction could be helped by just having human relationships again.
And I think pretty much everyone has some sort of relationship with somebody who is going through addiction.
Absolutely. It's an
Everyone
epidemic.
knows someone,
It is. Yeah, it's really an epidemic.
If there is a woman who is in recovery, they would contact you. Is that how it works? If they need help, or how does that all work?
We normally take referrals.
Okay.
If we are helping women that are actively working a recovery. We are not a rehab. That's one of the things that we get mistaken for a lot, is people that want to get clean, and I can guide them where to go. But we specifically help with the transitional part of recovery and struggling, those gaps as far as where they're struggling. Most of our women that we help have been referred to us either by family members or crisis workers or therapists. I would say, generally speaking, this is not the rule of thumb, but I have found that in my experience, a lot of the ones that really need help, they aren't asking for it. And we really try to help the people that are really, really, really helping. We have such a small budget to work with, and I can teach them how to hustle and how to work for themselves, but we're kind of like a last resort. When other things aren't working, we come in and help you, push you through.
So what do you need from the community? How can the community help?
We have nailed down an office space.
Oh, good.
Yeah, next month. We're really excited about it.
Where is that at?
It's in Layton.
Okay.
Yeah, we have nailed down an office space. We really, really, really need donations to help pay out our rent and stuff like that. But regardless, we'll make it happen. We need following and liking and sharing the word. And
on Facebook?
Yes, on Facebook.
How can they find you on Facebook?
We're under a New Dawn 501c3.
D-A-W-N?
Yep, D-A-W-N, yes. And just being able to share our word and get it out. We will be having we try to do something monthly that's some kind of a drive.
Okay.
This month, in honor of my brother that I lost to addiction, we are doing a drive called Boxers for Bigs. This is my also 4th year doing it.
Oh, I love that.
And we will have drop bins that will be on our Facebook and our website. Okay. You can drop off donations, and we ask for you to buy your own size of underwear, bra, or socks, and just donate that. And that way we get a wide array of what we need.
For women?
And men.
Okay.
And then we will donate it to men's and women's rehabs that are in our community. Because a lot of these, most of them are coming straight from jail. They've lost everything. They came straight from the streets, and they are wearing jail underwear. That's one of the reasons I do it, because I did wear jail underwear to rehab. So I remember the first time I got a package of clean panties, and it was like the most spa-like experience. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, this month we will be doing, we call it Boxers for Bigs, because that was my nickname for my brother.
Okay, so you have been through this. You had this wonderful lifestyle, this wonderful family, and you hit rock bottom, and you probably never expected that, and your family and friends never expected that either. And it happens. Unfortunately, bad things happen to good people. What advice would you give to someone who is maybe going through this, or their family members? Like, how can they help that person, or what can they do for themselves?
I would say that everything starts with good boundaries. Absolutely everything. You have to know in what ways you can give and not harm yourself. I believe really big in the power of making sure that you're taken care of first before you take care of somebody else. A lot of times I get these bleeding heart cases where I've got a family member that finally reaches out to me, but by the time that they've reached out to me, they've already given so much. And actually it's my place to tell them to reel it in. The people that had good boundaries with me when I got clean, they were the first people I found, because I knew that they weren't going to keep me sick. Yeah. As far as somebody going through this, having to do with recovery, just hang in there. Just keep going. Don't pick up. And it gets better, and you get so sick and tired of hearing everybody say, it gets better, it gets better. It really does. Recovery is hard, it is lonely, it is scary, but it does get better. You have to be, you can't be chicken. Yeah. You can't be a chicken. You got to step up to the plate. I always tell the women that I'm helping, I tell them that I can stand in their corner, I can rehydrate them, I can tape their hands, I can put the gloves on their hands, but they got to get out there and throw the punches. I can't throw the punch for them. And the minute that they lay down in that ring, I have to take a step away as well. I can't go out to the ring, I can't pick them up, they got to make sure that they come back. I can't fight fights for them. So my biggest thing that I would tell them would be just hang in there and start loving yourself.